Hey, we're cooking with gas here on the Jewcast.
Okay, careful using a phrase like that.
This trial is a travesty. It's a travesty of a mockery, of a sham, of a mockery, of a travesty, of two mockeries, of a sham.
Tradition!
Oh, shut up, Carl! Shut your goddamn Jew mouth! You people are why there's war in the Middle East!
Gekakken af een jam.
Nebbig.
Ver poepoepoe.
Vermischt.
Verkakt.
Vertut.
Verstonken.
Fartig.
Exactly.
You what Grammy Hall would call a real Jew.
Here we go.
All right, episode 52.
Hooray!
How exciting.
Very exciting. We'll get to it in a bit, but this week's Torah portion actually deals with starting to count the months by the
moon.
By the moon.
Yeah, that's true. That's God decrees it on this week's Torah portion. He tells Moses.
Well, we'll get to that.
That's one of like the mitzvahs, right?
It is one of the mitzvahs.
One of the first mitzvahs ever was about the moon.
Yeah.
It's funny because my friend, we were talking about horoscopes, and he's like, "No, you're not. That's your sun sign, but the moon sign." He's like, "That's the real one." It's my friend Mike, who's really into Judaism and Kabbalah, but he's not Jewish. I held the chuppah at his Jewish wedding.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but he's not Jewish, and neither is his wife.
They just like the Jewish traditions?
They love the Jews. He wants to be on the podcast. Maybe we'll interview him about his Jewish knowledge, because people have weird Jewish knowledge.
Yes.
Why don't we start with this story? Wait, quick. I want to say first, Monday was Holocaust Remembrance Day.
Yes.
So we talked about this last week.
We talked about it a little bit last week, yeah.
But 75 years since the Holocaust, that people don't even know how many Jews died, that people apparently think, 15% think the Jews bring it up too much?
Yeah, which is crazy, that people think we bring it up too much, but half the population doesn't even know how many people died in the Holocaust.
Right? It seems like they got to bring them up more. So there's a lot of these things going on about Jews.
Yeah. These
surveys where people are asking questions about Jews. There's so much anti-Semitism. Why do people hate Jews? We're hated. We're always hated. Who's still mad? Who's holding the grudge? Well, is it the Egyptians from this week's Torah portion too, when we get to the last three plagues?
Well, I mean, listen, for thousands of years, the Jews have tried to be living in peace surrounded by groups of people that hate them. So it's...
Okay. I mean, yeah, it's very sad. We talk about that all the time.
Yeah. But it is upsetting that they have to do this survey every year to find out if there's more.
Well, I don't know if they do it every year. I mean, I never heard of these surveys before. I just heard of, like, last week we talked about one. This week there's another survey we read articles about. So I don't think this is like a regular thing. And if it is, like, whatever. But, like, Jews, people don't like Jews. We're getting kicked off airplanes.
You're getting kicked off airplanes, yeah.
We're getting kicked off airplanes for BO.
For BO, which is which is some serious BS, if you ask me.
Hey, I heard that they claimed that they said that Jews only bathe the airline. Let's not name them. They said
the pilot apparently.
The pilot said Jews only bathe once a week.
Ridiculous.
I guess for the Shabbos. I don't even know. That's crazy.
And this couple that was kicked off the plane, they claimed, but we bathed this morning.
Like, that's so crazy that they had to say that. Apparently, when they got kicked off, they were like they were asking people to smell them, and no one thought they smelled bad. One person said they smelled a little bit like gefilte fish, but it was okay because they knew what gefilte fish was.
I think it's outrageous, but also I think it's got to be beyond the fact that they were kicked off for anti-Semitic.
Orthodox Jews. It was obvious they were Orthodox. He was wearing a kippah, yarmulke.
I think it's pretty clear. I've been on a flight where somebody smelled really bad, and they did not kick this woman off.
Did they sit next to you?
I was sitting behind this woman.
Oh man,
she was. I don't know. I don't know what her nationality was, but she was
stinky.
She smelled awful, and the stewardesses brought like fucking coffee grinds in the aisle to try to mask the smell.
Wow, that is weird. Did they just walk down the aisle like? It was, guys, no one be alarmed. We're just accidentally dropping some coffee.
They were really trying their best not to embarrass this woman, but it was clear that this was the reason. The stewardess brought the air freshener that they have in the bathroom to put on the wall next to this woman. It was like,
no way.
It was awful.
Did she have like a car freshener that she put around her?
I don't know. It was serious odor.
Well, that sucks.
But
let's talk about something that doesn't suck. Like, there are Jews in the Super Bowl.
There's a Jew in the Super Bowl this year.
Okay, I know nothing about the Super Bowl. I barely know that it's this week. It's Sunday is the Super Bowl. Whatever teams are in it, but apparently there's a Jew on it. There's two Jewish brothers.
Yeah.
So it's great that there's a Jew in the Super Bowl, and it's special because there haven't been brothers in the Super Bowl apparently for a long time.
Well, they're not both in the Super Bowl. Mitchell,
they're not both in the Super Bowl?
Mitchell Schwartz is in the Super Bowl. He's on the Kansas City Chiefs.
Schwartz?
Yep. He's been talking about the fact that he's...
but his brother's not in the Super Bowl, too.
He's not. His brother, Jeff, was an offensive lineman.
I thought you said that they were brothers, and it was the first time they were both in the Super Bowl. And they're
not both in the Super Bowl, but they're the first Jewish brothers to play pro football since Ralph and Arnold Horween in 1923.
Oh, okay. Jewish brothers taking over the NFL.
Because when you told me the story earlier, I thought it was like more special, I guess. I thought the brothers were both in the Super Bowl, like fighting against each other, you know? It was this epic battle like we're having in the Parsha with Moses and Pharaoh.
I think it's exciting that there are Jewish athletes. These guys are going to be in the Jewish athlete Hall of Fame. It's not a very, I don't know how many people
But no one's using the anti-Semitic tropes of like those Jews in sports. Those Jews are taking over sports. They're too good at
They control the offense. They control the movies. They control the media, and in this case, they might control the offense.
Yeah,
I
think so.
They might control the spread.
I think I'm going to have to call an audible on that.
Yeah.
Joke, Jordan.
So, let's get into this week's Parsha.
Get into it. The last three
it's
plagues.
The final three plagues. It's almost like when you watch a TV show and they wait like for till that final commercial break till you get like the final three.
It is a little like that.
Right?
So they're locust, darkness, and then the plague of the firstborn.
Right. So
all right. Can I tell you something? Last week we talked about this too, but what bothers me is apparently it's like. It's written that it's like, and God hardened the heart of the Pharaoh.
Right. Well, so God told us in last week's portion, he told Moses, this is what you're going to do, and the Pharaoh's not going to listen. He's not going to do anything. We're going to have to keep doing this over and over. He says the Pharaoh's heart is going to be hardened. He does.
Okay, yes. It makes no sense to me. I don't get it.
I know.
I don't understand how anyone could get anything from that. So why is he what he wants to show the Jewish people what he could do, that he is a people, that he's finally coming through in his word, that he told to Abraham and Isaac and all them, and he's going to bring us to Israel, and we're going to have the gold, we're going to take all the gold. But like, what is it? Like he wants to watch the drama? It's a show. Why? He's hardening his heart. He's asking Moses to go. Like the Egyptian people are just getting fucked, much like the Palestinian people are getting fucked today. And then, what happens? The locusts come. And the locusts don't just, like, come. They, like, fuck shit up.
Yeah.
Like, there's no more green.
Yeah,
they eat all the
crops.
Everything that's green is gone.
Right.
From these locusts.
Right. And then the next plague.
Darkness.
Right,
but
darkness.
It's not any darkness. It's like a thick darkness.
Yeah, it's like a fog.
Like, no one could do anything, like, the whole time that there was this darkness.
Right.
It was a really bad darkness, and it was not preparing for good stuff. But it's so weird. It just seems like God is creating Passover, like, while this is all going down. God's kind of saying, and you guys are going to celebrate this every year. Like, there's a thing called mitzvahs. He's like, hey, you saw all that bullshit I did? Well, here's some shit you're going to do. Like, is that what it is?
Maybe.
He was, like, flexing.
He's really writing an epic story here. He's like, well, we got to put more than one plague in there, you know?
So he tells them, one of the things is they got to sacrifice a goat.
Before we get to the Passover part, I think it's interesting that he sends the plagues, and the locusts and the darkness still doesn't sway the Pharaoh.
Right.
When he starts killing the firstborn of every Egyptian,
that's when it does.
That's when Pharaoh's like, all right, fine. Get out of here.
Well, no, that's when God stops hardening his heart.
Right. Well,
right? I mean, God's hardening his heart.
And
that's when God was like, all right, that's enough. I tortured this guy enough.
And Pharaoh fucking flips real quick. He's like, all right, everybody out. All the Jews, you got to go.
And
you can finally go.
Have our gold.
Get out of here right now. Don't even wait for your bread to rise. Don't even wait for the bread.
God tells them that that's going to happen. God tells them to, like, get all their, I feel like before. It's, like, so weird. That's, God's like, and then you're going to do this. For a holiday, He's like, you know what you're doing now? Everyone's going to do this all the time. Just trust me.
Yeah.
Just get all their gold.
The Egyptians are going to give you all their shit.
The hell out of here, ASAP. Put the blood on the doorposts.
Yeah, put the ram's blood on your doorpost so that I know that there aren't Egyptian kids there.
I don't know why this blood is the deterrent. Like he's all knowing, he's all powerful. How about just not the Jew kids? But I guess he wants the Jews to do something for him. I'm surprised that's not something we still do. I know mezuzahs, I think, might have something to do with that. But, like, on Passover, we put some blood on the door, to make sure God doesn't murder us. They get out.
And
God's telling them about the first mitzvahs. Some of the first mitzvahs are to make the calendar, like
Right,
we
to make the
mentioned,
calendar.
the lunar calendar.
Yeah.
And then to do this Passover, right? What else you got? You got to do the mitzvahs. That's when God starts commanding. So now they're on their way, but I think God's going to God's not done with Pharaoh. He's going to harden his heart again.
Right. The first mitzvah is to establish the calendar based on the monthly rebirth of the moon.
Which is really weird, with people into horoscopes or astrology. Like, I feel like that's a really big plus for them. That God said that's the first good deed mitzvah. That's the first commandment he kind of tells people to do.
After they have the Passover Seder, they leave with all the Egyptian stuff, and God tells them that they should consecrate all the firstborn and observe the anniversary of the Exodus by not eating any leavened bread. Like that's
he's like, don't eat the bread. I don't know this, and again, this is all screwed up. I don't get it. He tells them that they're going to go with the unleavened bread. Then they rush out. They don't have the leavened bread. And then he said, now it's that bread, that shitty bread. I'll tell you what, guys, it's a good deed to eat the shitty bread that you didn't have enough time to make.
It's like every time something goes wrong, God's like, you know what? You're going to really enjoy celebrating that.
Well, eat the matzah on Passover. They make the sandwich, right? With the bitter herbs, and they take
Right.
the meat.
It's to have it together. First place that went sweet and savory.
But that's not in this week's portion. It's just the bitter herbs.
I guess.
And the meat. Usually you don't do it with meat. You do it with like romaine lettuce or some shit like that.
Parsley.
Parsley, yeah.
Well, we've talked about Passover on here before because we had a Passover.
It's all Passover. We had Jordan's horrible rabbi on. But hey, I mean,
We're going to end up talking about Passover again at some point, but I feel like the stories that we tell about how God really kind of sets all this up and just likes to watch it play out. Like he could have just killed the Pharaoh from the get-go. Or he could have started with killing
made
of the
sure
firstborn.
that we were never enslaved.
Yeah.
You know when it changed and it went from the people that they were all in the favor of Joseph because he saved everybody from the great famine, and then after like a couple generations, there was a Pharaoh was like, who gives a fuck about that? You know?
Yeah.
Like at that point, maybe God should have stepped in and said, I give a fuck about that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in the portions that we're going to be coming up on, when we get back to the start of where we started a year ago on this podcast.
Okay. Or more, because we're going by the lunar.
Right.
We're lunaring it.
We're definitely.
I got to really start getting more into the lunar calendar. I feel like it's so crazy.
Yeah, we need to be more in tune with the moon.
With the moon.
Well, I think one of the
You
things
can't look at the sun. You can look at the moon.
One of the things that God tells Moses later is that they have all this adversity so that they will appreciate the times when there's not. Right? Isn't that what he kind of says later?
So is that just like one of the
because if you remember
stories they're
like
trying to tell you a little fable to make you
I just mean like
that's what you could take away from the story.
Like as they're leaving Egypt, they have to go through the parting of the Red Sea happens a little bit, and they have to go around all the way around versus just like going straight down the road. Remember?
Okay.
It's like God puts all these obstacles in their
I know.
in their
the
way.
whole time he does crazy shit. He's been messing with the Jews.
Like I don't know why these guys still follow God, even though he
they
tells
have
them
to
outright.
because whenever they try to be like, oh my God, you're so annoying, he like does something even crazier and worse.
I guess.
And they're like, okay, fine. They're like, what? Okay, we'll do it. And then they're like, no, dude, this guy's a dick. We're not doing his shit. And he's like, oh yeah. He's like, okay, we're gonna do it. We promise.
Well, I'll tell you, I think that if given the choice of the free will that God gives us, I don't know why we blindly follow him, even though he still throws.
I mean,
bad
some
shit at us.
people do. They are different gods, different kind of versions of like something that is put out there in the universe and energy or whatever.
I mean,
whatever form it takes in someone's mind to help them comprehend life.
Some of this anti-Semitism could be linked back to the fact that the Jewish God hates everybody else and kills their firstborns and sends plagues their way when you don't do what he wants.
It's true. There's a little tip for any non-Jews out there. If
Right.
shit goes down, start putting some blood on your doorpost.
I mean, I think that's why the Pharaoh tells the Jews to get out right away. Like, not only before you change, it's not like he's trying to get them out before he changes his mind. He's like, out of here before more of our kids are gone.
It's just the story is like, God, the way he portrays himself in this story, it's so bizarre.
It is.
That he's like included so much, and he's like, oh, and then I made this guy do this and that.
You got to think that if God had a book editor back in the day, so much of this stuff would have been a little bit more clarified. Like, this doesn't make sense.
But no, that's why people hate us, I think, because it's like, look at this story that's been created, and it's like the God. Like, it's saying that this is the God, like, of the whole universe. This is how he created the universe. He did in these days. He did a flood. The people were this. The people were that. They tried to get too close to him. He only liked a certain amount of people, Whatever. When Abraham, he was like, he really fell in love with Abraham. And he's like, whoever comes, from your seed, I'm going to, I don't know, they're the best ones. They're the good ones. Like, all of a sudden, God's, picking favorites. And then, we get all the way here where, it's again, he lets it go to, when it's the worst. All the Jews are slaves in Egypt. They're throwing the firstborn Jews, any boy Jews, into the Nile because they don't want there to be more Jews. You know, they're trying to, this is like the first Holocaust. People didn't know they killed 6 million Jews in the Holocaust. They were killing babies. They were throwing them in rivers back in the day. There was that kind of, Jew hatred.
Right.
And then now here we are.
Here we still are.
The Jews being hated. God, the God of the whole universe.
Who clearly is making this shit up as he goes along. I mean...
No, well, people don't like that. They're like, no, that's not the real God. Like, well, who are you to say that that's the God? Like, that's what, angers people is, what I think, That's, a root of anti-Semitism where people are like, who the fuck do these Jews think they are? That they're the chosen people? Oh, really? It's like if there's a religion and there's someone called we're the only people that don't suck or something, Well, it's like, hey, it's right here. You're not good. When it all comes, the Messiah, when it finally comes, you're going to be destroyed.
Well, there's the old joke then that goes back, which is that if you want to make God laugh, make plans.
Yeah.
Right? That's the old joke. So
There
clearly...
is a joke like that. Life is what happens while you're making other plans is a John Lennon quote, So whatever. Yeah, there's a ton of cliches that we could say. But the Bible is a crazy story. I think we're going to switch it up and stop doing the Torah portion because we talked about it. Maybe if there's something really interesting or a story we'll bring up. Or if anybody that's listening has something that they're interested in the Torah portion, you could email us.
Yeah, we're looking forward to having
AmericanJewPodcast@gmail.com.
We're looking forward to having some other perspectives besides just our own two here. Follow us on all other social platforms at American Jew Podcast, except on Twitter, we're American Jew Pod. You can follow me on Instagram at Beatnik Nudnik.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram at Jonathan Randall. I'm Jonathan Randall, if you listen this whole time. No, you've been listening for a year.
Well, and if you didn't do it already, go on the iTunes and rate and review the show. How about that? What a mitzvah that would be.
A 5-star mitzvah.
A 5-star mitzvah. There you go. The Jewish star.